Hello, Sanbonan. My name is Oleksandr, and today I'm going to be discussing and saying some words about a topic that I'm incredibly passionate about. That is the sport of boxing, the sweet science, the art that takes place inside the squared circle, let's say. And it is with specific regard to the fight that is going to take place this coming weekend. That is the undisputed, or the fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. And what I'll do is I'll begin by describing the fight as to why the fight is such a massive fight and such an important, such a historic fight as I describe it. Then I'm going to switch gears and get into the specific fighters. I'll tell you about the respective fighters in the fight. I'll tell you about their strengths. I'll tell you about their attributes. I'll tell you about their styles, their skill sets. And then I'm going to move on and describe to you what I think is going to happen, or what my prediction is going to, or what my prediction is about the fight, like what I think is going to happen. And I'll tell you who I think is going to win the fight. But not only who is going to win the fight, I'll tell you what I think, or who I think is going to win, but also how I think they're going to win. And then I'll leave it up to you. I'll hand over the baton to you to share in the comment section what you think is going to happen to the fight, what you think about the video, what do you think about my take, and for you to share what your take is regarding the fight that's going to take place in Riyadh on the 18th of May in the country of Saudi Arabia. So the fight is going to take place between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. And the reason why the fight is such a historic fight is because for the first time in the 20th or the 21st century, rather, we are going to have an undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, right? And what that means is that all the titles of heavyweight divisions are going to rest with one fighter. And if you're a fan of boxing, or if you're not a fan of boxing even, this is how the landscape sort of is, in the sport of boxing, in comparison to sort of other sports. So in boxing, you have a variety of different organizations and institutions that in themselves can sort of anoint a fighter to be the heavyweight championship of the world, or the heavyweight champion of the world, in as far as that specific organization is concerned. So anoint, not unilaterally, of course, through fighting, mandatory fights and claiming that specific title, right? So it's not like in other sports where you've got like one organization, like the NBA, for example, is the National Basketball Association, is going to determine who is the NBA championship, and whoever's the NBA championship is basically the basketball championship in America, for example, right? In the sport of boxing, you've got multiple different organizations. So instead of just one NBA, you've got different organizations. You've got the IBF, you've got the IBO, the WBC, the WBA, the WBO. You've got the Ring Magazine, you've got the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. You've got a variety of different institutions and organizations that in their own capacity are able to provide a title of the heavyweight champion of the world, right? So the two fighters are both heavyweight champions of the world in their own respects, in their own titles, or in their own specific lanes. Tyson Fury, who is otherwise known as the Gypsy King, is the WBC heavyweight champion of the world, and he's the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, which not enough is said about, So I just want to spend a few moments telling you about the title that is the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, which is different from the other titles of the heavyweight champion of the world, like the IBF, the WBC, like the alphabet heavyweight champions. Like the lineal heavyweight champion is different. And it's a title that's not really recognized by people outside of the boxing fraternity. But for us as boxing historians, as boxing enthusiasts, we know what it is, and we it's incredibly important for us, you know. And the person that holds that title right now is Tyson Fury. And basically what it means is that when you're the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, you're basically heavyweight division boxing royalty. You are in the sort of lineage of the great heavyweight champions of the world, like the man that beat the man that beat the man that beat the man, all the way back to the very first heavyweight champion, a man by the name of John L. Sullivan, back in the late 19th century, not even 20th century, late 19th century. So that's the late 1800s, back when the sport of boxing was undertaken without any gloves, when men just stepped inside the ring with each other and put their bare knuckles on each other to determine as to who was the heavyweight champion of the world, right? So back to the fight. The fight is going to produce for the very first time a single heavyweight champion of the world, where all the belts are going to be owned or going to be under one fighter. And that doesn't happen very often. That is a very, very rare occurrence, and we are going to see that for the first time in the 21st century. So let me tell you about the fighters. You've got, on the one hand, a fighter by the name of Tyson Fury, otherwise known as the Gypsy King on the one hand, that is from Manchester, England, from the United Kingdom, from Britain, whatever the differences are. I never really understand what the difference is. If you know what the difference between UK and Britain and, you know, just let me know, because I've never been able to get a firm grasp as to what the difference is between those sort of names of the country or countries, right? But anyway, be that as it may. On the other hand, you've got a man by the name of Oleksandr Usyk, who is from the Ukraine, and he is the WBO, the WBA, the IBF, and the what is it? WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO heavyweight champion. So he is a unified heavyweight champion of the world. That is, he holds multiple belts, and he got those in spectacular fashion, beating a solid heavyweight in Anthony Joshua twice, I might add, and retained his title, his crowns, as the WBA, WBO, IBF, IBO heavyweight champion of the world. He's actually even the Ring Magazine heavyweight champion of the world. That is, he's the heavyweight champion according to the historic organization, institution that is the Ring Magazine. And Tyson Fury, I believe I didn't say much of his titles, but he is the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, as I mentioned. But not only that, he's also the WBC heavyweight champion of the world. That is after the great, beautiful, gorgeous trilogy that he gave us with Deontay Wilder, which is basically boxing history. You know, it was an incredible trilogy, one of the best trilogies we've ever seen in the heavyweight division throughout the course of boxing history. So those are the two fighters, and their attributes they're different. They have different styles, and they have different sort of attributes and strengths, right? On the one hand, you've got Tyson Fury, who is the natural heavyweight. That is, he's bigger, he's longer. And on the other hand, you've got Oleksandr Usyk, who is naturally, I would say he's a cruiserweight. That's his natural heavyweight or natural division, weight division. He's, of course, unified the division, or the cruiserweight division went up to light heavyweight and went up further to be in the heavyweight division. So he has went up to finally get to the heavyweight division. So he's not born a heavyweight, really, whereas Tyson Fury has been a heavyweight from the beginning, right? And that puts the advantage with Tyson Fury, because he's the bigger, he's the longer fighter. But it also makes Oleksandr Usyk from Ukraine a smaller target. You know, it makes him harder to hit, and their skill sets are also different in the sense that Oleksandr Usyk, on the one hand, is an incredibly technically sound fighter, very crafty, very technical, very tactically astute, very intelligent fighter. Uses angles incredibly well. Is incredibly precise with his punches, and he moves very well, and is able to pick points up, you know, in a very steady way, in a very steady manner. And Tyson Fury, on the other hand, is longer, as I've said, and is naturally an outboxer. That's a style of fighting, right? So what that means is that he tries to keep his opponent away from him. He uses his length, he uses his reach to ensure that his opponent doesn't get too close to him, and he basically outboxes his opponent, right? Now, that hasn't been the way that he's fought in the past couple of bouts, especially with the trilogy that took place with Deontay Wilder that I mentioned earlier. In those fights, he fought as a pure outboxer in the first fight, but then switched up in the second and third fights and decided that he was going to charge forward and go for the knockout. And that's exactly what he did in the second and third fight against Deontay Wilder. But I do think, judging from the way that he has lost weight in preparation for the Usyk fight, that I think is going to go back to being an outboxer. He's going to go back to his natural style of being an outboxer and outboxing Oleksandr Usyk. And how I think it's going to go is that I think it's going to be an incredibly technical fight. I think it's going to be a high IQ fight. Both fighters are high IQ, have high boxing IQs, and are incredibly crafty, incredibly sound technically. But ultimately, what I think is going to happen, I think that Tyson Fury, with his length, with his reach, with his upper body movements and his ability to stay away and keep away and duck and dodge punches from Usyk, and his ability to be able to pinpoint and accurately place his punches on Usyk is ultimately going to win him the fight. I believe that the fight is going to be a 12-round fight. I do not believe that any of them are going to go out there to try and get a knockout, and I don't think any of them is going to get a knockout. I think it's going to be a highly technical fight. I think it's going to go the full distance, and I think the winner of the fight, dare I say, is going to be none other than Tyson Fury, otherwise known as the Gypsy King, the man from Manchester, England. I believe that on the 19th of May, we are going to have a new undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I believe it is going to be Tyson, the Gypsy King Fury, who is going to be the WBO, the WBA, the IBF, the IBO, the WBC, the Ring Magazine, and the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. He is going to be the single and only heavyweight champion of the world, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. And all will know and understand that the king of the heavyweight division is Tyson Fury, and anybody that wants to challenge him needs to do exactly that, needs to challenge him for that title. That's my take on what the fight is going to look like. I'm very eager to find out what you think is going to happen in the fight. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the fight. How do you think the fight is going to go? Who do you think is going to win? How do you think the fight is going to be? You know, I think it's going to be a highly technical fight. I think it's going to go the distance. I don't think there's going to be any knockouts. Maybe a few knockdowns, That might happen. That will be exciting. But I don't think there's going to be a knockout. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know what you think is going to happen in the fight. Cheers.